All right. Welcome, everyone. We have another special podcast today. I am joined by PLO legend, high stakes crusher, owner of Run It Once, Mr. Phil Galfond. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Jeff. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I think we can sympathize and relate to each other with both having a baby boy. We know how amazing
Yeah.
that is, but how much work that is and sleepless time. So tell us a little bit about how that is being a father, and then we'll dive. I want to go back over your career and kind of catch people up if they don't know who you are. But how is it being a father now? About a
Cool.
year.
Yeah. I think we both take on too much as well. I think we have that in common. So I mean it's being a father is awesome. I love it. It is exhausting to add to my plate of all the other things. But I get a lot of help from Farah. She does a lot more than I do, and very thankful for that. And I still, get to spend a lot of time with him, and yeah, I love it.
That's great. Yeah, no, I've obviously followed along, and I remember, I played a little bit of live cash with Ferry this past summer, and we were also in that course together for, I think it was like a day and a half. I'm not sure. I think we were with Elliot, which was awesome. So I got to kind of chat with you a bit about it, but it is fun. It's a lot of work, and we take on a lot, but it's all part of the process. So why don't you tell those out there that most people in poker are familiar with you, but give a little background on how you got into poker and even where you grew up and kind of your path into poker.
Okay, yeah. So I grew up in Maryland, and I started playing card games with friends like around the age of 12, 13, and we were like gambling for, like way too high stakes for our 13-year-old bankrolls. But no games that we played I've seen since. They're just like weird card games, nothing, no Hold'em, no Omaha or anything like that. But I didn't take it seriously, of course. I went to college in Wisconsin, UW-Madison. And at that point, it was actually the end of my freshman year of college that a friend of mine from back home, who I used to play with, won a tournament on Party Poker for like 30K. And obviously that was like the talk of our group of friends.
Right.
And he actually reached out to me specifically and said, Phil, I've been reading some books on poker and studying a little. And obviously, like won this, but I'm also just doing well in general. I think you'd be really good at this. I think you should try it. And so I did. I picked up a couple of books. I can't remember the first book I got. It was bad. But the second book I picked up was Hold'em Poker for Advanced Players by Sklansky. And from there, I found the 2+2 forums and did a lot of my learning there. So that's how I found poker. And I was about 19 at the time. I started playing sit and goes, like $10 sit and goes, $10 and $20 sit and goes with $100 bankroll. I lost it, put another, I don't know if it was 50 or 100 on, and didn't lose it. So that was my second deposit, worked out. But obviously, like we all did, I assume, playing way under rolled at first. And then eventually, pretty quickly learned to be a winner in those games, and a small winner in like the $10 sit and goes. And so during during my sophomore year of college, or at least the beginning of it, I was like, okay, well, this is my job on the side. I had just gotten a job doing SAT tutoring, but I just quit that and just played poker. So I was maybe making $10 an hour, $15 an hour or something, and was like, this is a lot more fun.
Right.
So I'll do that. And it was so if that was early sophomore year, I guess it accelerated pretty quickly because by my halfway through my junior year, is when I dropped out. So I think by that time I had moved up over the course of that year to like $100 sit and goes, sometimes $200 sit and goes. And I went to play a couple of live tournaments in Tunica, Mississippi. There was a WPT and a WSOP circuit event. And I figured I would just play these. I'd come back, just like get whatever I missed from my professors when I came back. And I min cashed one. I didn't cash the other. And I came back and I didn't feel like going around to my professors and and getting the work that I'd missed. So I just decided, okay, I'll take a semester off and see how it goes.
Where were you going to school? I'm sorry.
University of Wisconsin.
Oh, where
Madison.
Same one that Helmuth went to, or a different Wisconsin? That was in Madison. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And and it was that summer. That summer was a big turning point for me. First of all, in the spring, I switched from sit and goes to cash games. My friend Peter Jetton suggested it. He said he'd been doing pretty well in cash games, and he was a sit and go player at the time. A lot of my friends, or like all my poker friends, were from the 2+2 sit and go forums.
Right.
So I started playing cash, and one kind of interesting thing is that I never played low stakes cash games ever, because I was playing like $100 through $1,000 sit and goes, and then I just started playing 5-10 no limit. And then that summer was my first summer in Vegas. I had turned 21 in January, and went out that summer and stayed in the house with a bunch of guys. And I think that was kind of my biggest acceleration in my game, was just being in a house with a handful of guys who all took poker seriously. It was the first time I'd ever seen somebody else play. And I don't know, I picked up a lot. And from there it was, no looking back. So
what summer that was? 06 or 5, 7?
That would have been,
because I see your first cash ever was 06, January 2006. That was at Binions.
That must have been it. 06.
Okay, so summer of 06, I see. Yeah, so you got a couple scores here, and then what shifted you into PLO then? Because this is all no limit. You're known as the GOAT, man, and PLO, the greatest in having a genre. Yeah. That's pretty cool. When did you say, you know what, 2 is fun, but 4 is better?
It took a while. So that was 06. I took a couple shots that summer. I was 5-10 player primarily. I took a couple shots at 25, 50, even 50, 100. They didn't stick. I lost. So built back up at 5-10, and over the course of the next year, I did a lot of shot taking at 25, 50, would lose, step back down. Eventually it stuck, because by the next summer I was playing like 100, 200, 200, 400. So that next year, all still no limit. So that next year, I didn't necessarily have an explicit strategy of bankroll management, but the way that I did it was basically I would grind up, more of a roll than I needed for the stakes I was playing, which was mostly 5-10, some 10-20 at that point.
Right.
And I would take a shot at 25-50 or 50-100, and if it didn't go well, I would go back and grind like a small, like 3 buy-ins, 4 buy-ins.
And at this point in poker, were you doing swaps? Were you people buying pieces, or were you pretty much just always doing your own thing?
No, at that point, none at all. I didn't really learn about that until the following summer. Actually, it was the first time that I ever had any sold action. Mm-hmm. And so over the course of that year, I must have at some point taken, I don't remember exactly, but taken a shot at 25-50 that stuck, and then taking a shot at 100, 200 that stuck, probably my second or third try. I remember my first shot at 300, 600, because it was very memorable. I sat down against Phil Ivey heads up. That's a good place to start, 300, 600. Yeah. And it was the second hand we played. He set oversetted me, and I just quit.
That was online then?
Yeah, on full tilt.
Back in the day on full tilt, man. That was geez. So okay, so pretty intense intro. That's okay. But what was that? So you actually just were like, all right, and then did you just overnight basically shift to PLO, or were you still doing no limit a fair amount? What was the switch in the percentage of 100% no limit into PLO? How did you segue out mostly PLO?
Yeah, so there was a while where I played both. So that was now the summer is 2007. In 2007, I still wasn't playing PLO, I remember. And 2007, 2008 is around when the Rail Heaven games were going off. It's 500 1K no limit was running.
Okay.
And so I was mostly playing that, but then they also started playing half-half. There was a 500 1K half-half table.
Okay.
And I guess what happened then is there was 500 1K no limit, but the 300, 600, 200, 400 ring games stopped running as much. And so there was a gap 100, 200 to 500 1K. And I wanted to place in the middle of those, because 501k wasn't running all the time, and 200 400 PLO was running around the clock.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay. And so there was a time when I remember specifically, there was a time when Tom Dwan, where were we? We must have been in Toronto for a WPT Niagara, I think, and staying in a hotel. And I remember Tom saying, if you want to learn PLO, you can come watch me play. And so I took him up on that, and I watched him play for like a few hours, and then I remember the next day, he was like, "Hey, there are these really good PLO games running. You should hop in." I was like, "Tom, I've never played a hand of PLO. It was 200 400, like 3 tables." And he's like, "No, it's fine. Just you'll be fine. These games are really good." And so then I played. I mean, I lost. I had no idea what I was doing. Still, I'd watched him play once. But then from there, like I guess I just started learning slowly, and I actually did most of my learning from card runners videos. Brian Hastings, Brian Townsend, did most of my learning there, and then so I started playing PLO. Was still playing those no limit games, and for a couple of years I was playing both.
When he said that to you, how genuine? I mean, you guys are friendly and good friends. Like, how much of that do you think he's like genuinely thinks you're going to be fine, and how much of it is like he's like, all right, come in there and maybe you'll pick it up, but you're probably going to pay a little price to learn. But like when he says that to you, were the games that good that you think like you legitimately? It's hard to just win in any format.
No, in hindsight, like I mean, no, the games weren't good enough for me to have an edge. I think that Tom has always been overconfident. Or like not overconfident necessarily, but like quick to confidence. He's always very confident in himself, and also he thought a lot of my game. He was confident in me, and so it carried over. And he was just like, "No, I mean, Phil, these guys are terrible. You're really good. You'll figure it out."
Right.
And I think he believed it for sure, but I don't think he was right.
That's funny. And just to kind of look here on your career on the Hendon Mob, which is you're not much of a tournament player. And actually, I realize we got to get you out of the U.S., man. I don't see a flag other than the U.S. on your Hendon Mob, but you have got some important big wins. And in 2008, you do win the $5,000 Parliament Omaha event, which is pretty cool. I mean, for a 5K, it got let's see. 408. Oh, it was a rebuy too.
It was a rebuy. Yeah, it was the last year of rebuys.
Yeah, juiced up. There's a couple legendary names in the mix: Johnny Chan, David Benjamin at the final table. But you won it, and look at the pay jumps are huge, especially back then. The first, second.
I mean, read the whole final table was big names basically.
Oh yeah, Helmuth just doubled,
Negreanu, yeah.
And was it 9-handed? Are they playing nine-handed PLO? Man. Okay, so yeah, literally in Juanda. Yeah, it's a ridiculous.
Yeah, it was a crazy final table.
So you end up, they were televising those back then? Did they televise? No. They weren't televising because there was a stretch when they were televising a lot of the side events. But yeah, what a ridiculous final table. You take first. Was that significant at the time for you, or were you already? I mean, you were playing huge stakes. So
I mean, it was significant. It wasn't life changing, but it was definitely significant, and it was like a huge milestone, of course, in my career. Winning a bracelet, it was something I always wanted to do. I think I always was like, well, I won't say too concerned, but like more concerned than average about like the recognition of like I think there was for a long time a lot of like very good online players felt like disappointed that they weren't recognized as good poker players by the world, and so it was a time, like at that time, it felt like some validation, even though I knew, of course, that, winning a tournament, there's so much variance. It's the first final table I ever made. So to win your first final table, like there's just a lot of variance involved, of course. And I knew that, but it was still a really important achievement for me. And it was a really memorable tournament for me too. For like, there was I explicitly remember there was one big hand that I played with like probably 20 people left against Daniel Negreanu, where I raised with it would have been King, Queen, 7. He called. Flop was King, Jack, 8. I bet. He called. Turn was a brick. There was a flush draw out there. I checked. He potted. I shoved, and he called and he had a Jack 10 9/8 for middle two pair open ender.
Wow.
And he asked me, he said, why did when you have all the kings, why do you check? Do you like, why do you think I'm going to bet? And I said, I didn't think you were going to bet, but I didn't want to bet and get called and then have half the deck on the river put me in a spot where I'm checking and praying and facing your shove, or like your big bet, or your shove on the river, and risk my tournament life. And he went on and I remember he made a YouTube video, like a vlog. And that was like, cause he didn't know me at that point really.
Right.
And, but he made a vlog and he was like, and yeah, I played this hand against Phil Galfond, and I asked him this question. He said something really smart that I never thought of, which was exactly what I just said, basically.
Right.
So it was memorable for me in a few ways.
That's cool. That's sort of, I think that also illustrates your point that online players don't really have recognition, right? So at that point, you got guys like John, Helmuth, Ivy. These guys are sort of TV legends from playing high stakes cash, the World Poker Tour. Maybe they've got some bracelets or titles for the WPT, and it's like guys like yourself who may be the best players in the world that no one really knows about or don't get recognition, if you will.
Yeah.
It was before the Twitch days too, right? And
yeah,
poker was different. Now, if you want to showcase or play, you can go on Twitch, you can make vlogs, you can do other stuff. But this was, I think we missed out on the opportunity to create Twitch. That would have been a good thing at the time. But yeah, no, that's very interesting, and that's cool that you taught sort of a legend, got acknowledged, and then also went on to win the tournament. And that is a big deal. Like getting a bracelet. I played for a lot of years. I have seconds, thirds, don't have one. It's hard to do. Like you said,
it's really hard to do.
The final table, you're at your first one, and you just ship it, which is definitely adds some confidence and whatnot. But that's cool. So you win that tournament, and then at that point, you were summer 2008. You were now primarily PLO only, or you still dabbled?
I'm still kind of half at that point. Like that was pretty early. Like I was playing straight PLO still, but probably mostly no limit. I didn't consider myself like a PLO player mainly at that point. I was still a no limit player primarily. I'd kind of just learned PLO, but learned it pretty well. And then I don't know if I know the year, but it was something like 2010, 2009 or 2010 when I shifted mostly to PLO. And at some point, it must have been 2009. I must have shifted almost all to PLO to the point where I started in 2010 to feel out of touch with No Limit. And so when some of those games started running again, I didn't feel great about it.
And then, okay, so then you're in PLO, and do you notice though, do you feel like the game was growing did you think that for a while that was like PLO would overtake Hold'em? That's what would be spread at casinos, like maybe the main event would even be, cold. Like did you feel?
No, I never felt that. Sorry, I never felt that, but it was at that point, it took over for online high stakes, and I thought that would continue, which it maybe kind of in some ways has. So it was what was running at Nosebleeds online. And so that's what I focused on for a while. And actually in like 2010, I started to learn triple draw, which was kind of had a similar experience to learning PLO, and where I just like hopped in games that I probably shouldn't have at very high stakes. But then, all right, we have well, I don't know if you guys can still see me. But Jeff's power went out. Maybe I should check. And if you guys can see me, I'll just keep talking about whatever. I mean, it says I'm live, so the show must go on. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So I'll just keep talking to you guys. So I started in 2010 to play triple draw because the PLO games were slower, and triple draw was what was running at high stakes online. And so I tried to learn that. I lost a lot initially, And that was actually, I started to win a little bit back, and that was when Black Friday happened in 2011. Jeff's trying to reconnect, so I don't know if we want to skip right to the Black Friday story. But yeah, Triple Draw, it was a totally different game. It was, so like transitioning to PLO, obviously it was ill-advised for me to hop right in at very high stakes, but it has a lot of similarities to No Limit. On the flip side though, hopping into Triple Draw, I think was a terrible idea because it's a completely different game. First of all, it's limit instead of No Limit or Pot Limit. Like No Limit and Pot Limit are different, but they're pretty similar. A lot of the same concepts apply. In Limit, it's just, Limit's a much different game. The same concepts apply in theory, but a lot of the strengths that you might have that help you excel at No Limit carry over to Pot Limit, but don't carry over to Limit. Things like, being careful about balance and deception to the point of like kind of, sacrificing immediate expected value for the chance to win a bigger pot later. Things like that don't matter as much in Limit games. And I had a lot of bad habits because of that. I still do. But yeah, Black Friday happened. And at that point, no, I guess for Black Friday talk, I'll wait for Jeff to get back. So I'll have to talk to you guys about something different. I wish I could see like is there a chat here? Oh, there is. Okay. Hey guys. Yeah. So I do see some chat with me to help me out. But yeah, high stakes mixed games were going. And I did play some horse as well, but that like a couple of years later, I actually became very good at Triple Draw. Never became good at horse or 8 game for that. I mean, 8 game is horse plus 3 games that I was good at. But the challenge was I always tried to learn multiple games at the same time. And the bigger challenge was just that my thinking, I was so much of a big bet player that the way that I thought about the game, like, had led me to a good style for big bet games, but not necessarily for the right reasons. And usually that's okay, but like you kind of build all these habits. Nilius, am I saying your name right, Nilius? So Raz is his favorite. I don't really enjoy Raz. And horse is fun. Like I enjoy playing horse. I don't really like Limit Hold'em, but like mixed games are fun, changing games. But I just have never been very good at it, so don't like it for that reason. But yeah, eventually learned the thing about learning Triple Draw is that it's one of the simplest games to like run math on, because let's say. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, we're back. Are we interrupting? Sorry, the Triple Draw? Go ahead.
Yeah, finish my thought. Yeah. So Triple Draw is one of the easier, I think, Limit games to learn because, yeah. So like you can look at an example. Let's say you draw 1, I draw 1 on the final draw, and you can kind of like pretty easily figure out if we both have good draws, how often we're going to have each category of hand. So if we're both drawing to an 8 or a 7. We have 4 outs to hit a jack, 4 outs to hit a 9, 4 outs to hit an 8. Well, not to hit an 8. So like then you count, like if we had the 8 draw, 4 outs to hit an 8-7, depending on what card you're missing, etc. And so you can actually, like, you don't need to have super advanced tools to do some basic math on a Triple Draw. So I found that to be the easiest Limit game for me to learn, surprisingly, because actually Limit Hold'em I still suck at. Hey, Jeff.
Okay, we're back. For complete power failure, no idea what happened, but all right, you carried it on, like,
yeah, I'd give myself a 5 out of 10.
All right, good. It's better than a complete restart. So
yeah,
all right, we were in the middle of, we were talking about, I believe, what you thought maybe it would shift to all PLO, or was it going to go heavily the industry to that? But that was where the high stakes was going. Were you doing work at that time? Because the game's changed so much. 10 years. There's PO Solver. There's all these different things.
No, there were no.
What was happening back then? What were the best doing at that time? Was it literally just trial error, figuring it out, talking?
You're running equities, basically. I'm trying to think if you were running equities and you were watching training videos. That was basically it. I'm curious when Pro Poker Tools came out, because that was a pretty important one. I don't know how I was like gonna Google that, but they're not gonna tell me.
Yeah.
Pro Poker Tools was a very important one, and that came out at some point in like the early 2010s, I would think. But because then with that, you could look at, maybe that came out in 2009, 2010. You could look at, let's say I have 80% of hands and the flop is King Jack 7 with a flush draw. How often do I have a flush draw? How often do I have a set? So that was a big advancement, and people were studying that. But before then, yeah, you just ran equities. Like the way that I learned is I played cap PLO mostly, which is 40 VB cap. And I just always looked through every hand that was all in Hold'em Manager, and looked at the equities and just tried to figure out what kind of equity you had against what. And the game was definitely a lot less advanced then. But the thing is, the same skills in some ways always mattered. So obviously, people were c-betting ranges that were not at all solver approved and everything else like that. But you still get to the river and you can hand read based on what people were doing at that time, and what you expect people to have a hard time figuring out. Do they have enough bluffs in this spot? It's still poker.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, no, it's just crazy to think about the high stakes scene versus then and now, and just what's going on with everything. But
it's much different.
Wild times back then. And what was the would you say, I mean, it's pretty cool too that you took basically $50, $100 deposits, right? One of those stories. A lot of us did similar stuff where you end up, it's different too. When you're playing high stakes, you're risking a lot, but what you invested was so little. It's pretty nice, right? Because you think that's part of why you were so fearless and just not worried to move up stakes, because it's not like when you're losing 100,000 or 200,000, something like that in a huge game, you look back and you say, you know what, I'm only in for this much. But is that sort of how your mentality?
More or less.
But once you get it, it's real, right? It's like once you get that money, you don't want to relinquish it. So how was there any time you were like scared, or you remember thinking, man, this is like where you're like getting sweaty palms, like this is crazy what I'm about to take a shot? Or were you always just sort of okay with the outcome, and you always left yourself outs, right? You never really got all in. Like you and moved back down, like you said, against Ivy heads up at 300, 600. You weren't just like, all right, I'm going for it all here. Like you had some set rules.
I was taking a lot of shots that would be considered irresponsible, but I would always keep half my bankroll. Like I would never lose more than half my bankroll in a shot, and then I would just go back down. And there were times in my career where I was like consistently playing 100, 200, and then all of a sudden I was playing 25, 50 again for a while and grinding back up. So I definitely like pushed it for too long in a lot of spots by like normal bankroll management standards, but I always stopped at a point and jumped back down. And I think that worked well for me, and especially at the time. I wouldn't advise it so much now, because the skill gap between stakes is so much greater. But back then, there still was the skill gap, but there were just good games, or relatively good games all the way up. So being a little more aggressive with bankroll management, having to step back when you have to step back, but like I gave myself a lot of shots at being able to play bigger and playing good games. So that worked well. As far as the like what you were saying about the money meaning something, a big turning point for me was in 2008. I moved to New York and bought a condo, and that was the first real thing I bought. Like I was playing 500 1K before I bought anything at all. Like, and I was living, I dropped out of college, but I was still in my college town with my college friends who never, didn't have any money. So I never felt like, if I had lost it all, I'd be like all my friends. It's fine.
Right. They didn't set the bar so high with that standard on that. That's it's interesting. Look, I read something that you bought 2 penthouses, or you had a slide from one penthouse to the other. I never heard this. What is this about?
Yeah, that's true. So I mean, it was, it's what you said.
This is
in New York. Yeah.
It sounds ridiculous. I need a statement on this, please. What happened? What is it? What do you mean you had a slide in between?
So I was looking for a 2-bedroom plus office, And then I was looking for a place that was unnecessarily big, and I couldn't find a lot of good options. And this one building I looked at that I really liked, they didn't have anything big enough. But my realtor said, well, what you could do is these 2 units here, you could get them and combine them into one. And I liked that idea. And it was actually, so I was moving there with a friend from college, and he was going to stay in the other room. And I remember we all went there and looked at the place. We're just looking around at like, okay, so if we did this, where would we put the stairs? We take out the kitchen up top because there are 2 kitchens. And I pretty quickly was like, oh, we should just have a slide here. And it was not totally a joke, but it was not totally not a joke. And then as soon as I said it, I really liked the idea. And so that's what we had, a staircase and a slide.
Okay, so there's an optional slide.
Yeah.
Well, but you rent, that was something you rented or you bought?
No, bought.
You bought it.
Yeah, and that actually was
houses in New York, and so the game, man. So this is 2011. Business is good, and you just
2008.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it was tough time too because yeah, it was very expensive, and then the like I put down my deposit, and then before we got to close, the market crashed.
Oh, that was exactly during that time.
Jeez. And I went from thinking that I was going to put like 20% down to having to put like 60% down because I just couldn't get a loan. Right. They were just like, no, we can't do that anymore. So it ended up actually putting a much bigger dent in my bankroll than I thought that it would. And that's when like I started I don't know, that was when I started caring about the money more.
So it might have been a good thing. Yeah, that's something I've realized as well. I bought a home this year, and it is different, especially as a poker player. It's a bit tricky, right? When you don't have, you're just like, yeah, I play poker. If you don't have any kind of set specific income, it's even trickier. But that was before 08, exactly. You could put down 10%, 20% on a lot of these deals, and they were just giving away whatever you want. But so more tricky. It's very interesting. And then you go and decide to get how did you come about doing the run at once then to come up with this training site? So Card Runners was around, you used that, you liked the stuff they were doing. Did you just wake up one day and say that? Had it been a thought for a while? And how did you get that plan into action?
So I'm not going to get the dates right, but at some point when I was playing high stakes, I talked to the Card Runners guys, and they asked me to make a video. They said, whatever. They asked me to make a video. So I made a Card Runners video, a single Card Runners video. It's really well received, and I enjoyed doing it. And they made me an offer, and I didn't like it. So I didn't do anything at that time. And then it was maybe a year or so later.
Yeah.
2 people separately reached out to me at very similar times for some reason and said, hey, I'm starting a training site. I'd like to partner with you on it. So I talked to each of them about it. Eventually chose one of them over the other. And then that training site was Blue Fire Poker. Oh yeah. And I was the lead pro at Blue Fire Poker for a few years. And, I ended up that site did pretty well. Like at that point there were maybe 6 or 7 training sites already. But I think we quickly became number 3.
Give me a couple of other ones just to take us down memory links. I can't think of many back then.
Card Runners, Deuces Cracked, Lego. Back further, there was Poker X Factor. There was Stocks Poker.
Okay.
There was some what was that one? What was the one with Mike Matisow? I loved his videos.
Oh yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, his videos were so good. I want to be able to find them. It was I can't think of the name.
I'm gonna have to Google that and find an old throwback. Maybe someone in the chat knows.
They were so good because actually, so he was playing mixed games, and he taught me some stuff. They were good videos, but also he was recording live and playing high stakes, and he obviously would be emotional about the results, and it was very funny.
Oh, he was playing a live cash game or something and would be showing you his hands?
Online. He was playing online, but in real time.
And record it and then show and then do videos. Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Okay. Yeah. So I could see how that would be entertaining. So, okay. So then you guys move up pretty quickly. Now you have a top 3 site, you and a partner. And then what happened?
So we ended up parting ways. Like it ended up seeming like to the public a lot of drama, but it wasn't so much. It just we saw things differently,
Right.
and so I ended up essentially quitting that, and it was, I don't know, a year and a half later, started Run It Once, and I started Run It Once with a friend of mine who I knew from UW Madison, and actually, well, his name's Dan, and actually he was part of the first house in Vegas. It was a big coincidence. He was a sit and go player. We lived together that first summer in Vegas with a few other guys, and he was coincidentally moving to Madison right after the summer because his girlfriend, now wife, lived there. And we actually talked about starting a training site back then, but never did.
Right.
Like we actually even like hired a company to build the website, and then we just realized it was too much work. We were playing too much poker. But struck up discussions with him again because I still wanted to do it, and I thought that we could do it better. And so we launched Run It Once and went with a much different approach. Like at that point, every training site was they were putting out like between 2 and 5 videos a week, and not consistently at all. You know, it was just when the pros sent them in, they were charging $30 a month, give or take $5, and that was about it. And we launched with a $100 price tag for our elite membership, and like hire, mostly like with that money, higher caliber pros, and we released 14 videos a week consistently, 2 videos a day, which is very hard. I understand why none of the other sites did that, but we've been able to do it.
Did you get sort of some built up? You must have got a head start. That seems
you have to
hard. Have to do it, right? You can't just rely on the poker guys to do that. Yeah. So, okay. So that's, so you guys just come out, you knock this site out. How much preparation, once you said we're doing it, you got everything implemented, you go for it, you record videos, how much time until you launched from when you had everything come to fruition?
I don't remember exactly, but the web development was the slowest part. We also came out with like a nicer, slicker website than everybody else.
Right.
We just went for a much more professional and kind of first class kind of feel is what we wanted to do, because we felt like, and actually we thought about even pricing higher, for at which we like, it was probably worth more, which is why it probably did well.
Right.
But yeah, we just thought that like stakes had gotten higher and higher, and the knowledge was worth so much more than it was back then when the high stakes were 10, 20. Like the high stakes are 501k. So why are we paying the same amount to learn from the coaches at the highest stakes when they're playing astronomically higher?
Right.
So we went with that approach, and figured that like what we wanted the conversation to be was not, so there are always conversations. What's the best training site? Should I go here? We decided we wanted the conversation to be, well, Run It Once is obviously the best, but is it worth the price? And then people could decide that for themselves. And it worked well. We became number 1 very quickly. And part of that was because of the product we released, and but part of it was timing, a little bit of luck, because the top sites were kind of trending down at that point.
Right. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. So you made this aggressive move. You get the site up, the site's going very well. How did you, after it got off the ground, were you what you were expecting, or did it were you like, wow, this is crazy, it took off, you guys, marketed it, did all that, like it was, it became quickly one of the elite sites, or did it take a little bit of time, or did it just instantly pop?
It instantly popped. So like I was pretty blown away at first how quickly it became what I mean, I don't know every site's numbers, but I'm pretty sure it became top site immediately at the time. So I was really, really happy with the first, 6 months to a year. And then actually maybe the first couple of years, but it slowed at that point, or kind of like we hit a ceiling pretty quickly. So, happy with the first couple of years, or compared to expectations, happy with the beginning, less happy with later on, but still happy. Just
was that Black Friday? So it was around the same time as Black Friday, or no?
We launched after Black Friday, so Black Friday was 2011.
Yeah, April.
We launched at the end of 2012, December 2012. So it was a while after.
But you had probably, it was before you, when you came up with the idea and actually were saying we're going to do it, was it before Black Friday happened then? Or was
No.
it after it happened? Then that may be, so that was in a way maybe a blessing too, because if that hadn't happened, maybe don't take the time to stop playing or whatnot, right? It kind of gave you maybe a bit like, oh, what do we do now? Makes sense to sort of reflect, sit back.
And I think Black Friday was big part of the reason that the other sites started declining, because like a lot of the sites were carried by a team of like 5 big names, and like Deuces Cracked, for example, a lot of their big names stopped playing online because they wanted to stay in the US.
Right.
So that did open up the window for us.
Interesting. Okay. So one of those, do you remember where you were on Black Friday? Were you in New York? And when it went down, and I was randomly in New York. So I was playing online at a friend's house. I remember exactly the DOJ stuff coming up and kind of like, wow, like what now? Thinking how it was the worst thing in the world. And then saw a lot of, ultimately positives or glad kind of it happened. But what did you think when that happened? Cause you had just, I guess you had a house for a while now, but you did buy double penthouse in New York. You're there, you got a slide, you got everything going on. What was your immediate reaction?
Yeah, it was annoying. I hadn't bought it, planning to leave in a few years. I was, at the time that I found out, I was playing 1500 3K triple draw on full tilt. And we kept playing. You could keep playing, but someone said something in chat, I think, and then I checked out the website that was shut down. Like you went to the full tilt website, it was shut down, and I don't know, it was really weird. I was on a huge downswing. I was on like, I don't know, a little over $1 million downswing.
Shit.
Which is never fun, but then I had a little bit less money tied up than I would have. But yeah, I was just playing, and it kind of didn't feel real at first. And even after it felt real, I just figured, oh, I mean, they'll figure this out. Like, they're not going to not let us play online poker.
Sorry, the web just cut out for me for a second. Yeah, so you played that session and then that was it? Like I mean, Jungle Man's notoriously famous for, he had, 5-6 million on there. I mean, were you, it seems almost unnecessary. I guess the games are big, but you don't really need to.
That was unnecessary. Yeah.
That was a little bit crazy, but was it something like that was, I mean, because it took how many years to get paid back? Were you pretty stressed out too? Like, this is kind of a big deal. It looked like maybe you weren't going to get it back.
I think I had,
you don't have to say the exact number, but you had
whatever. I had under $1 million, but not too far under. And it was stressful.
There was a lot of talk about people were selling I remember they were selling their pieces on the dollar for.
I have to check the link. Did we cut out again?
Shit, I don't know. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
I don't know if that's my net. I'm thinking it might be mine because my net cut out completely, like blacked out. But you can hear me?
Yeah.
All right. I don't know why it's doing that, but yeah. Was that something you considered to sell like on the dollar? Did you take part in any of that? Because I remember there was a lot of people trying. There was like talks, or I don't know if it was Twitter or where people were communicating, but there was talks like, oh, I'll sell 20 cents on the dollar, what I have in there, and those kind of things. Did you take part in any of that?
No. So actually, another thing that Tom Dwan talked me into was we guaranteed some of the money. I forget. I actually don't remember how we structured it, but like Tom, I think had a full tilt deal at that time, or no, not yet. I don't know if he did. I think so, but he thought it would be a good idea, like to help everybody like relax and to help the poker sites if we made like a statement. And so I think we combined guaranteed $1 million, which is insignificant in like, $1 million or two, maybe each $1 million, which I'm sure, there are many, many millions in the balances, like I don't know how much, but it was more of a statement of our confidence that it would work out. And obviously I kind of, like most things that Tom talks me into, kind of regretted it later.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's becoming a theme shortly on the podcast. Already a couple high variance, high stakes situation decisions. He's pretty go for it, just not caution to the win. How would that have worked? You just like, you would have, if like the money all didn't get paid back, you were going to pledge $1 million and divide it up to people?
Divided up based on their account balance, which I don't know how we were going to get. He was going to try to get.
Very ambitious, but well, I guess generous of you to do that. Yeah, I don't know. That would have been, I don't know how much that would have really done in the scheme of things, but that would have hurt you. But yeah, so interesting. So yeah, crazy times. And then what? You go and buy a place in Vancouver, and why Vancouver? Why not Toronto or Montreal? Maybe that's closer to New York, or you were just ready to make a shift. Did you sell from New York at that point, or you were?
So I ended up selling. I didn't immediately. I ended up selling like a year later. At that point, I was also renting an apartment in Vegas.
Okay.
That I mostly just used for the summers and then a few other weeks out of the year. And then, so I went to the World Series without knowing what I was going to do next, because it was like, what was it? April?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Black Friday. So I went to the World Series without knowing what the plan was. And then with a couple of friends discussed, like, I knew that I was going to move somewhere, and I discussed it with some friends during World Series. We chose Vancouver mostly because it just looked like a great place to live. No other real reason. It actually was kind of less convenient for a couple of us, because like my family's on the East Coast, my friends were on the East Coast. But I don't know, we did. And like going from Vancouver to Vegas is easier than other places, but there wasn't a whole bunch of thought that went into it.
Right. Yeah. No, it's a good. I mean, close. It's Canada. It's a nice place, and so you're there, and you've kind of been going back and forth. And well, let me just. This is a question in the Twitter as well. When did you meet Farah? So Farah is now your wife. You guys have a child, about 1 year old.
1 year. Yep. Just turned one.
And when did that take place in this whole process? Where does she come into the mix?
Okay, I need to backtrack.
Where did you meet? Come on, Phil.
I think we met in.
This is live. We can't edit this. Don't.
I know. 2013, I think we met. Okay. So we got married in 2015, and yeah, it would have been. Yeah, it would have. I was definitely already in Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think 2013. I'm gonna go with.
We'll take 2013. Okay, but you met where? Live? You met on? Was it on the poker?
Farah and I met on Twitter.
A Twitter one. That's not. I usually hear the T for Tinder these days. That's very common. I know numerous people that that's happening. It's the internet's a real thing now. So Twitter though. I've never heard of a Twitter one. I don't think.
Yeah.
Specifically Twitter. So how does that go down?
It's
your Twitter game. Show some tips out there.
I don't know. I got lucky. She followed me. She has like a long story about how this happened, because she actually didn't want a Twitter account. Was forced to get it by a show that she was on.
Okay. And
then she had somebody else managing it, but then they were saying stupid things as her, so she was like, "Fine, just give it to me." And she liked playing poker. It was a hobby of hers, and she watched poker, and so she followed some poker players, and I guess she had seen me on high stakes poker. Nice. And so, like, surprising. I mean, I was on there like a couple times, and I didn't think I made an impact such that anybody would pick me if they're following like 8 poker players, but apparently I did. And
that's the one that matters. You got the one. It's not about the game. It's about she took a liking, and then how does it progress?
It started with she replied to a tweet after I had busted the main event, and said something just kind of like, busted the main, had a really good experience this time, blah, 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 met some really cool people. And what she tells me now is that like she had been, all the other poker players she followed were like telling bad beat stories and complaining and whining. And I just said something positive. And so she said she felt compelled to reply, not expecting me to say anything or see anything.
Right.
And she was just something positive about like how she liked it.
Took a little page out of Helmuth's book. You're Madison alum there. Positivity. And so she liked it, she digged it, and then she messaged, and then you directly you went in there.
No, it was slow. It was slow developing, slow developing romance. So I was like, I don't know if I replied. I think I replied something back, like just thanks or something short.
Cool. You try to play it cool. Okay.
Yeah, I played it cool.
Nice.
And then it was like several months of. So at that time, like I didn't use Twitter a lot, and I didn't really like a lot of tweets on Twitter. I just and people have different liking habits. Some people like a whole bunch of stuff, and some people don't like that much.
Right.
And she liked a lot of stuff, but so I'd keep seeing your name pop up in my likes.
Yeah.
And I guess I thought that meant more than it did, because I never liked anything.
Right.
And then eventually, she would comment on something, and I would reply back. And then it was I don't know, it was probably like 4 months or something where it was just a few messages back and forth, and then it was some tweet about, I mean, like, this is getting too long of a story, but some tweet about I think like Delta being terrible, and she was replying to it, and we had both lived in New York, and I forget, but we had some back and forth for a while, and I followed her.
How did you take from the Twitter streets to the real streets? That's what we need to know. When did and we can, I'm actually fascinated, but I know there's a lot of people in here that are dying for PLO knowledge and
sure.
And stuff, but this is exciting to me. I want to know how this went down. But how did you get her in the real life?
So there was something where we were she replied to a tweet, and I didn't reply because I took off. I was on a flight, and I didn't reply for a while, and she was getting she thought she might have said something dumb, and so she DM'd me and said oh, I just meant whatever. And so that's how we started DMing, and then we talked a lot there. And then I don't know who went to text, but we shared numbers, went to text. And when we met, it was kind of and it was pretty clear at some point that it was clearly flirting. And I was like, well, I don't know how I'm ever going to meet this girl, because it's just not going to happen. So my best friend lived in LA, which is where Farah lived. I was in Vancouver mostly, and sometimes in Vegas. And so I just said to her, hey, I'm going to visit. I have a visit with my best friend in a few weeks. If you're around, I'd like to meet up. And she said, sure. And I just planned the trip just to meet her.
Right. Yeah. So, nicely done though. All right. So we got it. We got a little Twitter to text to real life deal. And then I'll just premise this by saying I actually played some high stakes poker with your wife this summer at a nice game in Vegas. It was 300, 600, no limit. So, I mean, your wife is massive stake poker, and she actually, the one hand that she got it in good, ran it twice, was a 2-1 favorite, lost both in a big pot. Must have been 6-figure pot. It's actually to a buddy of mine I brought to the game. Who got it in very light, but she handled it like an absolute, true professional, big pot stuff. But how did she get? So at the time she was playing as a hobby. I mean, she's playing high stakes cash. What's going on, you guys? She's like, how much? I mean, you guys are literally you're both playing high stakes cash now. How did that happen? It
was pretty crazy. Yeah, it's crazy how it happened too, because I haven't taught her that much. She was playing recreationally when we met, and I think there's actually a switch that flips when you learn that people can do it professionally, and you talk to people and even if I wasn't sitting her down and giving her lessons, she was just kind of absorbing a bit. Yeah. And so she started taking it a little more seriously. She's never studied in any capacity, but started playing 2-5 at Aria. Once we got married and moved to Vegas in 2015, and she was playing 2-5 at Aria for a while and doing pretty well. And she'd occasionally come home, ask me about a hand. She was usually, at that point though, she would come home and be like, so I had Queen Jack of Hearts, and I raised, and a couple people called, and the flop was this, and then somebody bet, and the turn was nothing, and somebody bet. She didn't remember who did what at any point. So I was like, I can't help you. Yeah.
Same thing. You got to remember what position you're in or something.
Yeah. You got to remember who bet and who called.
Yeah.
But then I think she learns pretty well. She's very competitive and has a very good feel for the way that people are playing. And so she's mostly self-taught, even though I've guided her a little bit here and there. And she was then playing 5-10, which actually, like, 5-10 at Ario is pretty tough, and there are like a lot of regulars. And she was holding her own. I don't think she was winning a lot, but holding her own. And then we were on a trip with a bunch of people, but JRB and Robel, and they were like making fun of me for not being allowed to play in their game. And JRB, as a joke, said, well, I'll let Farrah play. And I was like, okay, I'll think about that. And nothing ever came of it until a while later. And I think this basically the same conversation happened, but he was serious when he said Farrah could play. And I was thinking, like, that game was easier than the 5-10 game that she's like winning small in. Mm-hmm. And like significantly easier, I think. Yeah. Most of the time. And so I was like, all right, then I guess let's do this. And so she went from 5-10 to 300, 600. She skipped everything in between.
I mean, you see some of those JRB hands, it's classic 3-5 in Asia and stuff. I mean, it makes some sense. But I mean, at that point, though, you just don't know how someone's going to respond to that, right? Because it's like, yeah, okay, let's say the game on a level of skill wise or BBs per 100 or something, maybe you're even a slightly bigger favorite, but yeah, you're playing 50, 100, 200, 500K pots. Like, you don't know, like someone's not going to necessarily be able to handle that or emotionally or really be able to just kind of segue into that normally. But how was that process? Because that is a bit pretty big. Yeah. Buying in for 500 or 50,000 is sort of.
She was nervous at first, and she also felt like when she would lose, she felt really guilty. And like when she would lose, like, she's always just naturally handled herself very well, like the emotional swings, and like you said, like she takes it like a pro, and that was just like if she loses, she's calm. That was just natural. The one thing I think she struggled with is, like, I don't know, especially coming from online, I'm used to like going on a 30 buy-in downswing, and knowing it's just part of the game. But if she'll like go in there and lose 2 buy-ins, and the next day lose 2 buy-ins, the next day lose 1 buy-in, she's like, I don't want to play anymore. And I have to say, okay, 5 buy-ins, not a lot. It doesn't mean anything at all. And so I think that's the one thing she struggled with, is when the money was so high, stakes were so high, just like small downswings that are high in dollar value, just made her feel like she was hopeless or losing too much. And so that's the one thing we had to work on a little bit.
You can just tell her, right, she'd go back to her actress self and just act like you don't care. Just pretend it's okay. Maybe that's part of what it is at the table. I'm sure she's, it's all emotional. You don't like losing a pot anywhere, but I'm sure if you lose as a favorite twice running it, you're pretty like, you handle it okay, but it doesn't feel good. Very interesting. So you guys, I would say, as in terms of couples and married couples that are playing poker, there's not many, or certainly not many that are doing the highest of stakes. So that's pretty cool. And in a way, now you have a son. How has that shifted? A lot of dads out there, a lot of parents out there that play poker. What would you say has been? Were you guys apprehensive to do that? Did you know? You never know, right? You just can't really know how it's going to be. But how was that prep going into having a child? How did you guys, in terms of time, like you said, you take too much maybe, which I do want to cover. We haven't even got to run it once.
I know.
And we've kind of sidetracked here, but how would you say that preparation is, and any advice you'd give to parents out there that are playing poker professionally? Some tips, tricks, just overall learning you've done so far with.
I mean, it's going to be so situation specific, because you have to do a lot of talking, because some couples might, like, the wife might expect to handle everything, and the husband to go keep playing poker and keep his weird hours and whatever else, whereas others, the expectations might be different. And so for us, Farrah's done more than me, and she's played a lot less poker as a result. Like, it kind of coincided with she was getting fewer invites to the game. The game wasn't running as often, but before having Spencer, she would still she'd go play 5-10, just 'cause she loved playing. And so that's kind of gone away for her. And what she expects of me is like, I mean, at the beginning we did a lot more. Like I basically took a month off, and the month before we launched Run It Once Poker, which is not great timing, but we were splitting things a lot at that point. But then later on, like basically, I start working early. I wrap up by usually like 4 or a little later, and spend the last couple hours with the two of them, and then the evening with her. So the main thing that changed for me was schedule. Like I've never had a consistent schedule before, and now I do. And it would be difficult to play in a game that was consistently running late at night. I'd have to shift my schedule, and I know that I wouldn't be contributing as much. I think she'd be unhappy, and so that would be a challenge if you play in a. But like for me, yeah, schedule shift. But I would say consult your partner and see what their expectations are, and what they want.
Communicate. Yeah, you gotta have some communication. Okay, so all right, you've run it once. That is something that very successful. You said $100 a month subscription, top 2 videos a day from some of the top pros in the world, and this has done very well. Quickly becomes the marquee. It's without really being able to argue that is the top training site for many years, being that, and then you decide to then go into poker, Run It Once. I think we actually met in 2013. We kind of got talking, and you got second in another World Series event then. That was the 25K. I remember we played together. You got second to Steve Sung. We were deep in that one together. That's where I really got to kind of chat with you for the first time. But that was then you started this idea around, I guess, after that, and get what made you want to do a poker site? There's PokerStars, this behemoth. There's Party Poker now with Rob Young, and it's doing a lot of things for the industry and trying to move strides forward. There's other major sites. How and why? What was the reasoning that you said the Run It Once is going so well? Why take on Run It Once as the poker site? What was that about, and what sparked you for that?
It was brought on by, I actually don't even remember the specific change, but there was one in a series of PokerStars changes, like announcements of policy changes or rake changes or rewards changes that. Like after seeing a couple, this one really it hit home for me that I really felt like they did not care about keeping poker a beatable game. Not that they would try not to, but that they didn't care, and that they were shifting things in the direction of mostly spin and goes with rake that's too high, and then beat the clock, which they fortunately took away. But beat the clock, maybe it was that was like the last straw for me, where it was like they're just trying to make a casino game out of poker.
Right.
And so professionals like myself are going to become extinct, online professionals. And, they were at that time, essentially a monopoly. They maybe had somewhere in the 80% of the market, which is not the case right now. But so I was very worried as a poker player about where the industry was heading. And I was in discussions with somebody, or actually with a couple of people who felt like this was something that we could accomplish, who wanted to partner on it. And so we had done a good job of building. It's much different, but we designed a very user-friendly website that looked good and built it. We had some good developers and very good design team. And so, I felt it was very important to have somebody running a poker site who cared about the future of poker and also understood poker. Because something also that seemed to be the case is that they didn't understand poker as much as the old PokerStars did. So we actually started building it long before we launched, and the plan was to launch it much sooner. And the market shifted, actually, specifically Party Poker. And Rob Young getting involved with Party Poker and doing a lot of things that, were similar things to what I wanted to do. Was, as a player for me and a person, great. For our company, it was kind of a bad thing because we were going to fill that void that was there. But yeah, it was actually, long story short, it took us a very long time to get started. and to get launched because the software development went a lot slower than expected. Ended up being more costly, but yeah, we ended up doing it. We launched in February of 2019 in beta. We're technically still in beta, and right now we're cash games only. We're looking to add SNGs very soon, and yeah, I'm trying to like summarize, but we launched with something much different than other sites. We have a lot of different policies and features, which is something that we wanted to do and felt was important for a number of reasons. I've written about them at length for anybody who's super interested on runotonce.eu/news. But yeah, it's the early going was tough with the software, and recently it's gotten a lot better, and we've been making more and more improvements, and I'm excited about 2020 for sure.
It's very cool. And just, looking at the time when you decided to make this change kind of for the industry, for yourself, you wanted to take this on. And I think we spoke briefly about it in the summer at the course we attended, which was cool. But obviously it's one of those things where you do take on a lot. You now throw in a son, you're married. It's a lot of time. You like to play as well. It's sort of like there's not enough hours in the day. I mean, this has been a big learning experience for you, but it's just something that, obviously, I don't know how to put it. Just sort of, do you feel like the undertaking of building a site and what comes with that? I'm sure you've gotten a lot of valuable experience, but what would you say is the biggest challenge right now in terms of, getting liquidity, those type of things? Is there stuff that are just really frustrating, and how do you, what are the hardest parts it's been to do to where you are right now?
For a while, the hardest part was software development, and it's still hard. But I would say we've gotten our software to a very good point where it's not the hurdle standing in our way. I think now the biggest hurdle is liquidity, because just starting a new site, the quality of your product relies on having players. And so to get players, you need players. And obviously that's catch-22, because you need the players to get the players and get them to stick. Because if somebody shows up, they're like, oh, I like your ideas, I like the feel of the software, I'm going to deposit and see if I like it. And then they show up at whatever, like let's say they're in, Vancouver, and they show up at 9 p.m. and nobody's playing at the game they want to play. And then they're like, oh, okay, why would I switch? I'll just go back to party. I'll just go back to stars.
Hard, right? They might want to play 1-2. Someone wants to play 2-5. Someone wants to play PLO. Someone wants to play sit and go. So of course it's tricky to grab, and you have to do it, slow and steady, and start from, you have to start from the bottom. So yeah, I mean, that's, it seems like the software, from what I remember when I first tested it, seems like it's come a long way as well. There's been a bunch of updates. It looks good. It seems good. And is there, you have an aggressive promotion? I saw you kind of targeted stars a bit with some, controversial, just coming at them, basically calling to go stars become legends. Tell us a little bit about what that is and what you can do right now.
Yeah. So we, launched this promotion in early January. It runs through the end of January, so you got 2 more weeks. And basically, it's we're asking PokerStars players to make the jump, switch to Run It Once Poker, and we're giving them quite a lot. So Legends is our new reward system that we launched in December. It's one of 2 reward systems, where we give a lot of rake back. And so we're, I believe, doubling their Legends rewards for 3 weeks, and then 1.5xing it for the next 5 weeks. So it's 8 weeks of increased rewards, and then they get a free Run It Once course from the ground up, just a no limit cash game course, a very good one. And depending on your skill level, like if you're a pro, a full-time pro at like mid stakes or higher, it might not be for you. It's for like, but like it's still like gets to fairly advanced. But if you're like somewhat of a beginner or like a casual player, you'll be able to follow as well. But for most, Yeah, go ahead.
Let me interrupt you on a question in terms of, because this is what I see a bit, and just to talk about this in terms of the players on your site though. So when I think run it once from a standpoint of players and a base, how would you respond to someone saying, you know what, it's great, I love what you're doing, I love the idea, I want to support Phil Galfond, I want to come on here, but do you feel, how would you say to someone that is like, because Run It Once is the marquee training site or one of the marquee training sites, maybe that some of that base or loyalty is going to come from there. So it's like, if people are going to say, oh, maybe the players are a lot tougher, or they're tougher because they're coming from Run It Once. How do you answer that? Or is that true, even the basis of your primary player pool? Or, you know, that just in the logically, that's what I would think off my head. Like, oh, it's probably the fundamentally average starting point is going to be players.
That's what a lot of people think, and it's a question that's something that a lot of people say. It hasn't, like, our games have been better than expected. I expected our games to be a little bit tougher than other sites, but not significantly.
Right.
One of the first questions we asked ourselves when we were deciding whether to launch the site or not was basically that question: was, can we attract a wide enough base? Like, do we reach enough people to have an ecosystem where there are enough players that are losing? And we did a lot of research and obviously a fair amount of guesswork, but determined that we definitely did. And it's actually surprised me with the game quality. It's been better than I thought. And I think the reason for that is what's happened is there are a lot of people in the poker community that are excited about what we're trying to do, who believe in our vision and our mission, believe in me, and obviously, you know, like more rakeback and like some of the unique features that we have. And those of them who are, like, I would call sophisticated recreational players. So they play for fun. They don't play for a living. They have another job. Most of them are losing players so far, but maybe not all. And but like, they follow things in poker.
Right.
Those people are all like, yeah, we believe in all those things. Let's go. And so they make the jump. But then the professionals have want to support us, but they ask themselves the question that you asked. They also see that, well, if I switch, let's say I'm a 50 NL professional, or actually let's say 100 NL, our games don't run that often. So or even at a stake where they do like 20 NL, they're like, well, I can get there and maybe get, like, at sometimes in the day only 2 tables, so then I have to multi-site, and I'd rather just play on one site where I can get all my volume, so I'm not going to bother. And so what's happened is we've gotten too few of the professional players to try us,
right?
And even if they, like, want to support us, and as a result, our games, I mean, like, don't take my word for it, I'm obviously very biased, but our games have been better than I expected. I've been pleasantly surprised.
Right. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. All right. Well, we have you set the record. It is official. I just had to check on there, and it is over 100 questions. So, I mean, we had a blackout internet cut. We went up against it with a couple things here. A lot of these questions are similar, and you got a pretty. Well, actually, before that, one thing I want to cover is their challenges, and then I want to take questions. But quickly, I do notice you did mention 2 videos per day. It looks like, so this is an active running tally on your site, 2,602. So you've actually had 2 videos every single day since inception. Is that true?
Yeah, we've done it.
That's insane. How does that work? Is the stock running low? You build up? I mean, it seems almost not possible to keep pace.
We have a team that bugs our pros all the time, and we always have a backlog. It's tough though. We've cut it close many times. Right.
And so then you got to rev it up and make sure you tell guys, look, you got to pump 10 out in this 2-day period or whatever. Interesting. Wow. That's, listen, I'm a member Run It Once, and I didn't realize this. I gotta dive back in here. And let me ask you also, some of these guys, you see Ben Solsky and, yourself, Jason Kuhn, Sam Greenwood, some of the best in the world. There's other, really, these guys are all fantastic players. Yeah. How would you say videos, if someone wanted to get on Run It Once right now, would videos that, how back is there a certain point where you think the content isn't relevant as for guys that are making videos on PLO? I mean, obviously it makes sense. The newer one's probably more relevant, but is there a year, like if the original started when was the first videos in 2013?
Very end of 2012. So yeah, I would say there are, I mean, if we didn't have that many videos, but they were spread out across all the years, I would say obviously some of the strategies have changed, but good coaches can still take you through a thought process and you can learn some things. But because we release so many videos, I don't think that you need to dip back into the early videos. They're there. And I think there are, like, we try to recommend some of the best of the early ones that still apply. When you're logged in, you have like a dashboard where we recommend some, and then we also have learning paths. So if you show up and you want to go, like, you click on learning paths, and then you click on no limit, and then you can click on like pre-flop play. There's a list of videos to go through in order on that, or you look at flop C betting, things like that. So, and some of those will include old videos, although we try to keep them with the newer ones. But yeah, I think some of the older stuff is out of date, but
the good news is there's 5,000 plus.
Yeah, exactly.
Cut out 2013, 14, 15, 16, even 17, 18, and you probably have plenty to watch. So that's not an issue. Okay, well, I do want to remind everyone, we do have a $55 ticket retweet for if you ask Phil a question, you follow the instructions, you will be eligible. And we, again, over 100 questions. I do want to make sure we kind of zip through a bunch of those so we can cover it. We're going to try to get to a lot of those. Let's talk about this, because this will come up a fair amount in the questions as well, the challenge, because this is obviously very exciting stuff. You saw some of this back in the day. There was some controversy where I think Jungle Man and Durr didn't finish, some other big name, high profile stuff. You sort of bringing this excitement back. You're going to showcase it on your site. Really great promotion. Tell me a little bit about how this came up and who all is confirmed at the moment, because I saw the Jay Nandez controversy where he pulled out. There was some people rioting about that and what happened, but tell me who's in, who you're playing for sure, and what that looks like and when we can watch it.
Cool. So the challenges, I'll try to be quick, but the challenges, the inception of it was in a few stages. The first one was I noticed that people were watching some of my PLO videos a little bit less and than before, and I started thinking, well, it's been a couple of years, or actually a few years, since I've been full-time on Run It Once. And haven't been playing as much PLO, so it makes sense that they would think I don't have as much to teach them, but I think I do. So maybe a way to prove that is to have an open challenge to any other training site pro. So play Heads Up PLO, and I'll lay them 5-1 or 3-1 on the side bet. And so that was the initial idea. And then after talking about it with the team a little bit more, I realized it could be a good promotion for Run It Once. And after talking about it a little bit more, I realized that, like, I was really excited to play poker. Right. So then, like, the motivation shifted from kind of proving myself as a coach to promoting Run It Once poker and playing poker. Mm-hmm. And so that's how it happened. I've got, so only one coach, two coaches accepted, but Jane Endez ended up deciding not to play. Chance Corneth is the other one who has kind of accepted. We shifted the terms. It's 4-1, and we're only playing 35,000 hands instead of 50,000. That is not 100% finalized. I'm trying to finalize terms with him very soon.
He's at a chip leader of a final table of a pending WPT.
Yeah.
So maybe I like that it'll go through, but he definitely seems like one of the PLO, prides himself in that game, and he's a great player. Also has a training site, so that's pretty cool. That seems like a exciting one. What else? Who else is there? I saw Bill Perkins, of course.
Yeah,
that one. Is that the first? What's the first one?
I thought Bill Perkins in the Thirst Lounge would be the first one, but they're gonna play kind of sporadically. Most of the other matches I'm gonna do in order.
Okay.
But they're just gonna pop in every once in a while and play.
I see a couple. I see Matt Forsyth, a couple other guys in the chat. Some of the Thirst Lounge 10 peeking in here, and Drew and chatting. So explain that too. So that means that it's not just Bill. Any of them can play at any point. Any of that? Yeah,
he can sub them in at any point, and I don't get to watch their streams, so I'm not going to know which of them is subbing in.
The Thirst Lounge 10, now I coined that, the 10 part of that came up. I helped Bill kind of organize that. Do I qualify or no? Am I in there? Because, that could be good on Twitch. No.
You don't quite. Actually, it would be good on Twitch.
Yeah.
How much PLO do you play?
I mean, I play a decent amount of 100, 200, 6 max. I like 100, 200, but I mean, I obviously I'm not like, I wouldn't be like, oh great, Phil, let's battle. But I mean, listen, if
Yeah.
you were to say Bill or the Thirst Lounge 10, yeah, I'd put my I would like my chances against. I think I'm their best shot. I'll say that.
Yeah, let me think about it because
Okay.
I think you might be as well.
But I mean, listen, I'm game selector, and I don't want to be anywhere near you, so don't think like you're, Anyway, but yeah, interesting. It'll be fun. A couple hands at least, during on Twitch, maybe like a portion of it.
So there's that, and then I'm playing Brandon Adams in a live match, so that's going to happen later, like this summer.
Okay.
And then for the online matches, there's Jungle Man playing that's the shortest match, I think.
I was with him in London 2 days ago, chatting about it. He was, I'm not going to give away, gauging where he's at, but for sure that's an epic one. I mean, Jungle Man and you are like that's just kind of iconic. You got to have that one.
He's somebody like I was not excited to play him, but he's just the dream like for promotion of the site. It's just too good, and he wants us to both stream it, so it's just going to be awesome.
He actually asked me if he could stream it on my Twitch channel because he doesn't have one. I said, sure, of course.
Awesome.
So that's great. So maybe you don't have to. You can just play Jungle against on mine. That's fun. So there's Jungle, there's Thirst Lounge, there's Chance Corneth, Nandez. What happened with that? Just not to add, I saw there was people kind of whatever. What was actually what was the reason that it was promoted and then decided not to?
I don't know the exact reason that he decided not to.
I saw he made a statement, but I didn't really.
Yeah, so his statement was that there was just too much, it was going to be too much preparation, more preparation than he was willing, than like he had time for, and he didn't feel right because he was going to have to raise money, and he was going to do it through like multiple investors. He didn't feel right about raising money to play when he wasn't going to dedicate 100% of himself to the match.
Interesting. I mean, I would say he's one of the biggest. I mean, obviously does strictly PLO coaching courses and stuff. I mean, that would be, I would almost think that he would be your toughest opponent probably just because he's literally living, breathing PLO like 24/7. I just would think that.
I think out of the coaches, I think so.
That just would be my. To be fair though, Heads Up is a different animal, right? Because even like playing 6 max, like I feel fairly comfortable, but yeah, like Heads Up, I would be, I get how it differs, but it is different, right? Like it's
definitely different, but the same skills can apply, but yeah, it's definitely different.
Yeah, like I mean, you think about it just from fundamentally, like Hold'em 9 max versus a Heads Up, they call the computer hand is Queen 7 off in a Heads Up Hold'em match, but in PLO, I would have literally. I would have to find that out. I have no clue. It would be important to sort of understand a gauging point. What is the computer hand in PLO? What is the middle?
I don't think there is one. There are too many different. There are too many that around 50% equity. But I think, it's much because like the main difference is that like all the same skills apply, but if you're playing 9-handed Hold'em and you're kind of mediocre, but you just play really tight, you can get away with it and like you can win. Yeah. But if you're mediocre and playing Heads Up, you can't you can't hide.
And what about PLO?
It's the same thing. It's to a lesser extent in PLO, I think, than No Limit, but it's still the same thing.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I guess like the more hands you play or whatever, the more in the challenge, the variance is gonna, it's gonna kind of show who's. Hopefully it makes sense. But still in PLO there is so many situations, or you get in a couple pots, or depending how it breaks, there's some excitement because it is kind of that. What is the actual most equity disadvantage hand between PLO? Like because in Hold'em it's not aces to ace-6 off or whatever. What about in PLO, like because it still is not that crazy. Like you're never like
I don't know the answer, but you probably like in the maybe 72% or something, I would think.
I mean that just
no, you can be dead with quad deuces against like quad 5s.
Okay, but someone that has even rudimentary understanding knows, like even with some kind of double suited
guard, then you're going to be like 46%.
Right, go somewhere. Okay, fair enough. So, all right, so you got those, and what's the most you'll do? Because these is this an open market? You're still taking offers, or in terms of because it's a lot of time.
I'm not I mean, like I've kind of settled on these as the kind of final choices, but if a good offer comes along, also if I go through the challenges faster than expected, or if somebody backs out, technically, would still consider offers. So it's those guys, and then Action Freak and Veni Vidi, who are not well known outside of just being high stakes crushers on PokerStars.
Okay, and those may be some of the tougher matches then, right? Those are some of the highest.
Yeah.
I mean, current, really good players, which is kind of tough for you too, because a jungle man or guy like that, those are the kind of guys where people probably think it could go either way, or it's super close and great players. But like these are guys that are maybe less known, but they're probably the toughest, right? So those would almost hurt more.
Yeah, they're the specialists that are focusing on PLO and are have been for a while, and Jungle Man and I haven't been necessarily. Right. He has more than me, but yeah, he plays 100 games, so.
Right. Yeah, he's special, man. That'll be fun. Jungle on screen. That's definitely pay-per-view.
I'm gonna be sad that I can't watch it, because I have to be focused on playing.
Right. Yeah.
I'll have to watch it back. But
that's
yeah, he's great entertainment.
That'll be fun. Okay, so that's what's going on. Very exciting. A lot of that for sure. It gives that feel back in the day. With those kind of challenges that people can actually watch, and not only now just watch, but actually see the whole cards is just pretty insane. So that's exciting, really creative. And
I should correct. So like the jungle match and the Perkins match will each be streaming with whole cards, but a lot of the other matches will be streamed. Like we'll put together a broadcast, but there won't be whole cards. It'll just be like observable view with commentators.
Okay, so you would be actually on Twitch, you're playing and just don't see your cards, or it wouldn't even be, you would be
it wouldn't be me.
Okay, you would be playing and it would be like watching in real time but not seeing the cards. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, that's cool too. I think it's nice. That's cool to get both views and ways on it. It is sometimes it's fun that way too. So very cool. All right, well, let's dive in, Phil, as we have, there's a lot of Phils in poker. It's crazy. It's definitely Phil, and what's the other one? There's one other that's really popular, but Phil is, that there's Dan. I think
Dan's big. Dan,
Phil, those are the poker guys. So we are gonna dive into the questions now. If you guys have them, you can still try to get them in. We are gonna go over on to Twitter, and again, there's a giveaway. If you are participating, you're gonna be eligible. Let's kind of run in there. Best poker book. What do you think? Now it's so much online. You run it once, but is there any book that you think is great or was great?
So I'm pretty sure the best book is Mathematics of Poker, but I've never read it. So, but that's what I'm going with.
Okay, fair enough. I like it. Funniest poker player.
Man, I've more recently been playing in Bobby's room and noticed that David Oppenheim's very funny.
Okay, yeah, I've heard that as well. I actually don't think I've ever played with him, but. Yeah. I've heard that Jungle Man's got to be up there.
Actually, Jungle Man beats him.
Okay, but both are good. Do you plan to retire? Do you plan to retire from poker? Is retiring in your repertoire?
I mean, maybe, but no, I don't. I love playing poker. I haven't lost any passion for playing. So if I do retire, it'll be because I'm doing something else I'm passionate about, basically.
Fair enough. Yeah, we probably always play, right? Poker, even if you retire, like
I think so. Yeah.
It's hard to imagine no poker. Phil, what would you recommend to a new/weak player? The fish sign, raise your edge or run it once. What is the main difference between them? And I'll take that further and say, what is run it once? I'm a raise your edge guy. Just been with them and doing their stuff. I've run it once as well, and I can endorse, say that I think they're all great and do different things slightly. But what would be the difference between your site and say a raise your edge or other sites?
So I'm not super familiar with the like content, like topic covered on Raise Your Edge. I feel like they're more tournament based, but is that untrue?
Yeah, that's fair.
So we covered no limit cash games, PLO cash games, and then tournaments. It depends. So for a new beginning player, I think that actually the From the Ground Up course that I mentioned is really, really good. I'm biased. I'm going to say run it once, but I'm not a member of Razor Edge, so I can't confidently say that the content's better. But From the Ground Up is really good. It's just $50 and pretty comprehensive course to get you from like beginner to competent, like beginner/competent up to like almost advanced or advanced. And it comes with a free month of Essential, which is $25 otherwise. And you have lifetime access to it if you buy it. So I would highly recommend that.
Okay.
I'm always gonna say run it once though, even if it's not true.
I love it. Well, that's good. I mean, that's good. New Year's resolutions or challenges in 2020. Safe to say you've got some challenges going on with these heads up matches. Do you do resolutions? Do you reflect at any point on what's going on? You mentioned at the start that you feel like you take too much on, as well as myself, like kind of just want to do everything, but anything that you're looking to sort of hone in on or change?
No, this year I didn't really have one. I have done it in the past, but no. Actually, the last time I kind of made a resolution was at the course, the Elliott course that we were both at.
Yeah,
it's kind of led to the challenges in that, like, I realized I want to be doing less of the business stuff that doesn't interest me, more of the stuff that does, and more poker playing. And coming up with the challenges is a way to do that.
That's awesome. I agree. I think sometimes too, it just sort of find yourself on the business side of things, especially when you're the CEO or founder of a site like that, where you're like, all right, I got to do this. I want it how I want. I want to craft it. But then it's like, wait, like I love poker and I'm just not really playing enough. So cool. That's good. Someone asked, you beat Jeff heads up, I guess with PLO or heads up.
Certainly a PLO.
Yeah. I would hope that's the case. That's your thing. So maybe there's a chance we get a couple hands in, but it doesn't look like it. Admission there said, poker, is it a hobby or work for you at this point? How do you say?
I mean, I still consider myself a professional, even though I haven't been playing much. So I call it work.
All right. And this player is asking, Don Yugoslavia, are you afraid of Jungle Man? Dan, is there anyone that scares you in PLO, or that you're like, man, this guy is tricky or tough? Anyone?
Not some people did. No, Jungle Man, of my challengers, I'm reasonably scared of Jungle.
Right.
But
gotta respect Jungle.
Yeah. I mean, like there are a lot of, I mean, Action Freak is someone that scares me a little bit. Obviously, Venny VD, I think, hasn't played as much heads up, but scares me at 6 max. And I don't know, like Sauce and Berry Sweet, Ben 86, Ike, those guys come to mind for very scary.
Give me a little bit of an understanding in 9 max, 6 max. I mean, you won a bracelet 10-handed or 9-handed PLO.
Yeah.
9-handed, 6-handed heads up. How drastic of differences are those formats within PLO versus a no limit, would you say? Like, how does that differentiate the different size?
I think that it's kind of similar to no limit, with the exception that 9-handed PLO is just awful. Like, I think it's an awful game. 9-handed no limit is still a good game, but 9-handed PLO, it's just, you're so handcuffed in what you can play that you just have to be super tight, not only pre-flop but post. Like, it gets too boring. In 9-handed Hold'em, you can still do some stuff,
right?
Because like you have pre-flop fold equity, and like the equities are further apart. But in like you can just bluff. But like if you're playing against super strong ranges in 9-handed PLO and multiple players in a pot, you just kind of have to surrender when you don't have anything, and it's kind of a boring game, I think.
Right. Okay. And what do you have to say about tournament poker currently, the state of PLO tournament poker? Because I love, I just played one at Dusk Till Dawn the other day, had a blast, 6-handed tournament live. They have some online. Well, is there any suggestions you would make to the current format of where we're at with that, where tournaments are at in PLO? Is there, there's Big Blind Andy got introduced in the recent time for no limit, big adjustment. Shot clocks have been introduced. What do you think could be done to make PLO more exciting, or for people, what could we do to make that more of a thing? Tournament PLO poker?
I think it's pretty important. I think 6-handed is important, maybe 7 if you want a little bit more, but not 9-handed. And I think the ante is very important. And I think it's better that the ante doesn't count towards the size of the pot, because what that allows for is looser play. And because the problem with PLO as a tournament game is when you get to later stages and there's like all the ICM considerations, you don't have a lot of incentive to enter pots, because you're never going to be 80-20. And just like there's so many spots where it's just like you don't want to take a 60-40, but you're always 60-40
Right.
at best. So I think that I think there needs to be the extra incentive to fight for pots, and so the ante works, and then it not counting towards the pot makes it such that like your pot odds to steal or to defend are better, and your pot odds when you get 3-bet are better, and so like
Interesting.
otherwise it plays too tight.
Yeah. Is that something have you heard chats about that, or do you think that's something that could be implemented? Because I like that idea. I don't think I've ever.
It's in the Aria high rollers. They do that where it doesn't count pre-flop towards the size of the pot, but then they count it post-flop. I don't feel too strongly whether it should count post-flop or not. I think I slightly prefer that it doesn't, but whatever.
Interesting. All right. So it sounds like there is some adjustments going on. What about short deck? Because that's also now a new hot topic. There's Triton. They spread a lot of that in tournaments. How about give me your thoughts on short deck? Do you play it all? And what about that as a tournament game?
I don't play it all. I think it seems in terms of equity is pretty similar to PLO. So I think the ante structure, like the blind structure, is much different though. And so I almost wonder if a similar, like if they're having success with that, maybe there's some way for PLO structure to emulate the short deck structure. I don't know, but I'm not familiar enough with it. I've played like 6 hands of it because somebody forced it into a mix game that I was playing, but I don't know.
Okay. Very, interesting. I think that also, I noticed commentating some Triton stuff too, that it did seem a bit slow, the short deck, like kind of towards the end where it's like people are gambling a lot at the beginning and going for stacks, but then sort of later it gets like really deep and tight. So interesting also to try to find a way on that. Talked about big promotions coming out for Run It Once. We already covered that. You guys can check back and see. Also go to Phil's Twitter. Who has been your most fearsome adversary, the one that cost you the defeat and the one that made you have to play your best poker? Yeah, over the years, is there anyone that just online sort of had your number at that period of time and when you're battling, or that you never did seem to do well against?
I think for a long time it was Ivy, and actually Zygmunt for a long time seemed to always have my number.
Is he still playing? I haven't seen Zygmunt's name.
I haven't seen him much lately. As far as more recently, I don't know. I think that, like, I think I'm up against him overall, but not by a ton. But Isildur is definitely somebody who stands out as like, I don't know. I feel like on my A game, I feel like historically on my A game, I have an edge, and on my C game, he's going to crush me. So like, he's always kept me on my toes.
Would he be someone in the challenge potentially, or have you talked to him or heard from him?
I reached out to him because like Jungle Man, it would be just awesome for the challenge and the publicity if he would play. I think he wasn't up for it.
Okay. All right, fair enough. And who do you figure? Do you have an idol in poker, or whoever you said at the table, same table? Is there anyone from back in the day, like originally on TV, or just someone that's been around for a long time, or even just say when you started in poker? Let's go there. Maybe that you were like, wow, that's really cool. This guy's made it for a living. I like how he carries himself and how he's a professional. Is there anyone that stood out to you early in your career?
Early in my career, Barry Greenstein. Who else did I? There were a lot of people, but I think Phil Ivey, Negreanu. But I think like as I've played more and learned more, who stood out to me the most is Doyle. Just because like I kind of had a realization when I was playing in these like in big bet. It was big bet mix, so it's like 12 games, all no limit or pot limit. And I'm sitting there with like I don't remember who's in the game at the time. Rast, Jungle Man, Roble, and like Doyle and a couple other people. And like sitting there thinking that like the people who can compete like at super high stakes these days, there are so few people who are over the age of 50 and compete like with the best. And Doyle in his 80s is like holding his own in every game. Like these aren't games he's particularly like studied. He's just played every game, and so it just occurred to me that like if he's doing this now, when he was young, he must have just been like absolutely demolishing. Like I think probably what I think when Doyle was young, he probably was the best player by a wider margin than anybody else has ever been.
Yeah.
At any point in poker. So I have a lot of respect for him.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, he is the guy. He's definitely like the most iconic and legendary guy in the game. Yeah. It's nice to hear that lives up to that hype, and he's still doing
like for a long time. Always knew of Doyle, of course, and respected him, and like by reputation. But it wasn't until like I played a lot with him, and was like, I don't know. I just assumed, he's like he'd just been around a while and was good. But like the fact that like, yeah, he can still play really high level poker at his age when so many other top pros like of the past can't hang anymore.
Right.
It just, it blew my mind.
It's pretty crazy. Let me ask you as well, what are your thoughts on Joey Ingram as a PLO player? Because I'd say in my experience, I started to play more PLO in the last couple of years. I love the game. I'd say that the people I think of when I hear PLO are you, Jay Nandez, now he does so much content in poker, and Joey Ingram. He's obviously has a super successful podcast. I'm sure you've been on it a few times once, and he's sort of the PLO. He just loves it, and he lives it, breathes it, and just loves the game. Such an endorser of the game. What do you think of Joey's PLO game and knowledge of a player?
I've played so little with him over the years. Like I played with him many years ago, but not that much. I don't really know what his game is like.
Would that be someone like Joey Ingram or Luke Schwartz, full flush, just for like a media perspective? Do you think that'd be something that they would be interested in, like Joey, or not? Because I mean, I don't think Joey really plays a lot of heads up. Right?
Joey doesn't play as much anymore. He doesn't play as much heads up, and also like the stakes are very high.
Right.
So like I don't think he would hop in for fun if the stakes were reasonable, but but I'm only playing 100, 200 or higher.
Also, like I'm sure he could raise some money just as well as like has contacts, but it's kind of one of those things too. It's like guys that would probably if you really want to play high and sell some action, you could do it. But it's like when you say, oh well, who's it against? Oh, it's Phil. It's kind of like, all right, like we could find better spots. So I'm sure that's not.
So a couple other people. So like Luke Schwartz reached out and made kind of a challenge, and we may or may not play. That's still undecided, but he'd be obviously a great one for promotion. He wants to play mixed games, but still like good for promotion. And actually Rob reached out on Twitter as well, Rob Young, wanting a challenge. And so we've kind of we discussed general terms, and he wants to play big. He's the one that wants to play biggest, which is also fun, but that hasn't been figured out all the way either.
Interesting. And very interesting. I saw Luke in London as well the other night. I saw a couple of your opponents here that are, they're ready to go. So it's going to be fun. I can't wait to watch. This is going to be a treat. What do you think about, for you, have you thought about selling any action or sweats for the community? Like what about a site, Stake Kings, where you can crowdfund, you could cap it at say $5 or $10 a person and put up, since it's such high stakes, and letting, people sweat along where they can buy a tiny piece in some of these matches. Does that interest you at all? Obviously you're trying to play as high as the sky, but just in terms of having fun where people can have a piece and be involved in that.
Yeah. I thought about it at one point a little bit, and then I just decided not to for some reason. I don't remember why, and haven't thought about it since. And I'm a little worried. I don't know. I'm going to give it a think again. Because
what you can do? Maybe you could do it if you have to buy in via your run at once account or something. If they could tie that with staking,
they could do that. Yeah.
Well, if you can buy in with your run at once. If on there you can click a thing and then you buy a piece of it via that. I don't know. That's just an idea. I think it would be fun because I know that's like the number one request I get on Twitch and other places. For when I play, it's like people just want to have a sweat. Doesn't matter how small. If it's $1 or 50 cents, it's kind of cool. I got a piece of Phil Galfond. He's playing Jungle Man.
Oh, I remember why. So the challenge with this compared to like a tournament is that there's no loss cap. So like I played 25,000 hands against Venividi. I could lose 100K. I could lose 7 million in theory, right? So like I don't know how to raise money for a certain percentage.
I think Yeah, I don't. That could be my initial thought on that. Would be that you would sell under an impression and maybe set a higher number than not, and you basically say like,
Yeah,
this is up to, but you could only win that much too. I don't know. You
yeah,
set it at like a realistic, like it's for plus or minus 2 million or something that you're only on. That's the exposure. Do the percent. I have no idea, but something along those lines where you could let. But I would buy a piece. I would love to sweat and do that. So I just was thinking about that. But
okay, cool.
yeah, think about that.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Cool.
It's a great, I think it's a nice promotional piece as well. All right, sidetrack there, Phil. Okay, who do you consider your idol? We kind of went over that. What is the motivation behind the Galfond challenge, guys? We did this already, kind of came up. We talked about where it came about. What's your poke room different from the rest? Ivan Narg asked. What separates Run Awards from the other sites?
So we have a lot of things that are different, and I'll since we're going long, I'll try to be quick about it. The gist is that we our goal is to create a sustainable, beatable poker, and that involves like creative solutions to problems that the industry is facing. And so, for example, I think that one problem that the industry is facing is that recreational players are losing too quickly because their loss rates are getting too high. And so when your loss rate's too high, you lose consistently and quickly. And so part of that is being targeted by a number of tools, seeding scripts, and then people having statistics on you that allow them to know like what type of player you are and quickly take advantage of that. And so,
is there HUDs on Run It Once? Sorry to interrupt.
No HUDs allowed. We have and it's when you sit down at a table, you get a table alias. So you're going to be a different name on each table. So nobody can have it's not possible to have a backlog of stats on you. But we have a built-in feature, dynamic avatars, which will change the expression of your avatar based on the way that you're playing pre-flop. Okay. And so we show and like you can hover to see if somebody's loose aggressive or tight passive, things like that. There's 7 different categories, and we do that so that like the information is the same for everybody, because that's something that you don't need to buy a HUD and you can understand even if you haven't learned what 37, 22, 10 means. Mm-hmm. You can understand what loose aggressive means and angry face means. Right. So that's one thing, just one example. Another thing that we've done is half of our rewards come through Splash the Pot, which is so like it's actually more than half. So 30% of rake collected goes back through Splash the Pot onto the tables. And so at random intervals, an amount of money is dropped into the middle of the table. And it acts as an ante. So it can be anything from 1 big blind to 1,000 big blinds. And anything below 100 big blinds, you just play for. So if there's like 10 big blinds dropped in the middle, now you just play poker with a 10 big blind ante, which is something nobody's ever played. Mm-hmm. And this does a few things. It shows people, it's fun. It shows people their rewards like a lot more visibly than other sites. It doesn't let you like not cash in on your rewards. Which is a problem sometimes on other sites. Like people accumulate points and don't even know that they have, and then just quit because like recreational players especially. Right. And it's also a bot deterrent because if somebody's built a bot that knows how to play 100 big blind through 200 big blind, no limit hold'em, 6 max, right? It hasn't necessarily learned to play with 3 big blind ante and a 5 big blind ante and a 10 big blind ante and a 20 big blind ante and a 50 big blind ante. So it doesn't, in and of itself completely stop botting, but it's a great deterrent for bots. Right. And also for the same reasons kind of mixes things up and gives people a chance to play a format that they have not studied for 1,000 hours. Mm-hmm. And kind of take us back to the old days of like who can figure it out first, what the best strategy is here. Like when there's 20 big blinds dropped in the middle and I'm under the gun, do I limp with a bunch of stuff? Do I have an open raising range? And what are other people doing? What should I do to counter, etc.?
Very cool. Yeah, I saw a tweet about your wife Farah was in a pot the other day, one of those, and she's like, I didn't win, but good thing I didn't win. It was like a big one or something.
It was a big one, yeah. 500 big blinds, yeah.
That's crazy. All right, so where's the money? PLO or no limit hold'em? I guess you've decided PLO, but do you feel right now in the current state of poker, is it?
I think cash games is PLO, but tournaments obviously no limit. So and like I think tournaments. It depends on the stakes you play, but I would say that tournaments are like the most dependable. Like tournaments, I'm not as pessimistic about the future of poker as some people are, but some people think, the games are just going to get too tough, and the tournaments are the format that's going to kind of hold out the longest or survive the longest if those people are right.
Right. Yeah, no, and I agree with you as well. You see the numbers are up kind of everywhere, like a lot of, and there are re-entries. It's a bit complicated. That's a huge point right now in the industry. People are talking, see Alex Foxen enter 5 times, win the Bellagio at the end of the year. But then, he entered 4 times and he made a tweet about it, saying he entered 4 times at the one in millions and didn't cash. So, I mean, it's like kind of, you can go on either way of that and how it works. Yeah. They're trying to find a good answer on what the right thing is, but the numbers are up. I mean, you look at WSOP, you look at WPT, you look at the party poker stops, you look at a lot, even online numbers are surprisingly during big series are high. Yep. These party hit a 20 million guaranteed 10K against.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's like, so it's not just like it's like dried up by any means. And I think that's like, there's solvers, there's this, but there's important part is having new people come into the game. And also now it's passed, right? Michigan, Pennsylvania, there's national level sports is passed in the US. So it does seem like people are getting with the times a bit and it's sort of moving the right direction. So I definitely feel like I'm not one of those that think it's going away at any time soon.
I just, I guess my computer started playing the sound. All right.
No worries. Yeah. Well, Phil, we have so many questions. I want to rapid fire a few. I know my net cut out for a few minutes, but we're getting close to that time. I know I think you have to get going soon too.
Yeah.
I believe. So give me a couple minute notice when it's actually time. I got to pull the plug. What is your biggest loss, if you don't mind sharing? Some of those were public back on the day. Like what was the largest win and loss you've had online in a day back during like the heyday?
Largest loss is 1.1 million. I think it happened twice. And largest win was 1.6 million. Happened once.
Nice to have the bigger than the loser. What was the feeling? Give me a little bit of tell me what when you ended those sessions, give me a little look at the difference. Galfond plus $1 million, down $1 million in terms of what you do when you turn that computer off. Man,
it's been a while.
Are you one of those like neutrality, equanimity, totally balanced, or do you? I mean,
I don't think
you feel a little different, but
like I feel a lot different. I think if you were observing me, you wouldn't notice much of a difference. I mean, like both times or all the times, I'm just exhausted and like finishing up a session, I eat something, go to bed. But obviously, my internally. Of course.
There's some different emotion. How many challenges do you expect to be a favorite in?
I really don't know. So there are some challenges where I've given long odds, and I expect to be a favorite in those, of course. Otherwise, I wouldn't have given long odds. I think I'm going to know a lot more once I play this first match, like once I'm halfway through, because there was a time several years ago when I would say I was at the top of PLO, and I'm certainly like not anymore. But I think that if I focus on it, like I haven't been for that long, but I've been prepping a little bit, and then focus on it throughout all these challenges. I think I can get back there, but I don't know that I can. So I think that like this first match. I didn't necessarily want to start with a match this tough, but it's going to be a good test. And
I'm sorry, which one's the first one?
VeniVidi is first.
Okay, it is right away.
Okay, and we're playing 25,000 hands. So like over 25,000 hands, the better player wins very often. So I'm going to know a lot more about where I stand after that match. Right now, it's unclear for sure.
And is he going to stream that or no?
No, so we'll just have a broadcast with commentators on the Run It Once Twitch channel, and just like the observed tables.
Who are the commentators? Is that announced yet or decided yet?
Not announced partially decided, but not announced yet. Yeah.
Very cool. That'll definitely be must see TV. And wait, that starts soon.
Starts soon. It's January 22nd. So that's next Wednesday.
Within a week. Wow. What's your most memorable televised YouTube PLO hand? Is there one that just stood out that you've played high stakes cash, win or loss, that was just like viral or anything super exciting?
I think I only played PLO on TV. Oh, I guess I did more recently. Forgot about that.
What do you mean? That's how you got Farah, right? That's how you got in the.
No, it was No Limit that I won Pharaoh over with my No Limit skills.
No Limit skill, good demeanor, and your positivity.
And my positivity. I think it was. I don't know. There's some hand that happened on Poker After Dark recently where I bluffed in a big pot against Ike with a flush blocker, but I don't think the play was that exceptional. But it was pretty cool.
Okay, I did see that one. Okay, tell me when you got to cut off. I'm not gonna lie. I can't. We got a lot of viewers on. We got people playing questions. I'm not gonna quit you. So you have to be the one to cut this off. You got to tell me if we're close or not. Give me a 2-minute warning.
Okay, I will.
That's all I'm asking. Okay. Oh yeah. Give me an idea on how. So I want to talk about tables. What was it in your what's the most tables you ever played? And when you were back in the day, online cash, was it 9 max, PLO, 6 max? You were playing a lot of heads up. What was back in your started PLO career? What kind of games were you playing, and how many tables at once would you play at the max?
6 max. Basically, I mean, I would play some heads up, but when I was multi-tabling, it was 6 max, and so it was regular tables, not Zoom, of course. I think 12 is the most that I would do with any kind of regularity, like 10 to 12. Sometimes I would try 14, but it always went poorly. And there was one crazy match where I played heads up, and I think we played heads up either 8 or 10 tables. And it was I was timing out everywhere. It was
a mess.
Yeah.
What would you give yourself? Let's say Phil Galfond at 100. You're 100 PLO player on at your best, 1 tabling, 6 max. What do you give Phil Galfond 12 tabling, 6 max? How big of a drop in your best game does it go in there? Is there a sweet spot? 4 games, it's totally fine too, but 6, 8, 10, 12, kind of a drop off, because it's kind of hard. PLO is pretty. For me, I've mostly tabled 1, 2, No Limit a lot. My heyday was doing a lot of tables, but I just would imagine PLO is so much more complex of a game to multi-table in a way, almost.
I don't know how much more complex. I think it's probably kind of similar, but you play a few more hands, so you're involved in more hands more often. I mean, I think anything over 2 tables, there's some level of skill degradation, but for me, it's 4, 6 max tables, I feel fine if they're regular tables. And then over 6 is where I start to see a bigger drop off.
And what can we expect in these heads up challenges? 2 tables normally, 2, 4. What are the? We're
going to start with. So my Veni match, we're going to start with 2, and kind of both see how we feel. I know that I can handle 2. I don't know if I can. I don't know what 3 or 4 would be like, 'cause I'm so out of practice. But
how long would 2 tables take in this format? Roughly, how many hours to do hand wise?
It's tough. So I haven't timed on Run It Once Poker exactly, because every site deals at different speeds and stuff, and it depends a little bit on how people play. But I'm guessing it's something like 200 hands an hour, 2 tabling. So then Veni and I are playing. We're starting at 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. So just for easier math, I'm going to pretend that's 5 hours a day, 4 days a week. So that would be 1,000 a day, 4,000 hands a week. So that would be 6 weeks to get to 25,000 hands.
Wow.
We're going to try to pick up the pace, add more hours if we both feel up to it.
Is that something? Will it be multiple matches going at once, or is it just one match till your completion?
I'd like to do one match at a time, but we'll see. I think there are times that I'll have to do a couple. It's really tough to schedule with all these different people, and yeah,
I would think it makes sense almost to have multiple going, right? Because then it's if someone's not ready or available, you're just all right, I'm ready these times to do it. But I guess it gets
it's tougher.
Yeah.
it's tougher for me to like. I think it reduces my chances of winning because just or edge if I have an edge because
That's
just
true.
like focusing on one person is definitely easier. But I'll do what I have to do. I'm trying to fit them all in.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess that is interesting. At the same time, maybe you're in a little better form. Like if you play 2 hours and then you get the next guy 2 hours later and like you're just like zoomed in.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. So maybe it balances out, but I don't know. That is interesting. What's your dream heads up challenge match out of all the poker legends? Forget this challenge match, but who would you just like, who would be cool to just go heads up with and go for it?
Man.
Twitter's bringing heat. Some good questions out
They
here.
are. That's a really tough one. I mean, I guess maybe Ivy. I've played him before, heads up, but he's just like I mean, he's a legend, of course, and he's really, really good. Like one thing that I think I'm good at is the kind of leveling, the adjustment, counter adjustment game, staying one step ahead. But he's definitely better than me at that, and so I like that challenge.
Is that would I mean, you said you reached out to Isildur as Ivy because that's something you would consider for this, or is that not really? I don't know how interested.
I doubt he'd be super interested because I think he's like, I mean, I don't think he's played online in a while, and I think he's probably in big games live. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. He'd be terrible to schedule with.
Yeah, that would be hard. Oh yeah. So we're saying you don't want to go into too much detail, but in terms of prep for the challenges, is there anything you can give us out there that to give us a look into your daily routine or how you approach this?
I thought that I was going to have like a very good routine for the last couple of months, but it just hasn't been the case because stuff comes up. You run a business, you have a baby. Yeah. So it hasn't been as much as I want. I think I'm going to like, I've like basically before a couple of months ago, almost never used solver. So I've started to, but I still haven't spent that much time in them. But I'm just trying to grab like overall concepts because obviously, like without hundreds of hours spent on it, you're not going to like pick up exact strategies or anywhere close to it. I'm trying to extract concepts where I can. And I think that a lot of my work, like my best work, is going to happen during the challenges. So play VaniVidi for 4 hours and then spend a couple hours reviewing hands and looking at things, like identifying spots where I think that he's whatever, let's say over bluffing or over folding or whatever it is, and see how I want to take advantage of it. And I think that's where I will do the most work. But like everything, I think I always expect that I can handle more than I end up being able to handle. So we'll see.
I'm with you on that. What are the highest stakes you have got someone agree to on the Galfond challenge? And what is the biggest odds you've given for those two to catch people up on what action you got out there?
Okay, I think so. Jane Anda's had 5-1, but that's gone. So Chance has 4-1.
You gave Jane Anda's 5-1.
Yeah, it was 3-1 was the coach's challenge, and then I had no coach. I was talking to a few, and then they all couldn't do it. So I tweeted, "All right, for 48 hours, I'll give 5-1," and that was when that's when he took it. Chance has 4-1 on 35,000 hands, and Perkins has 4-1 on 20 buy-in stop loss.
How can Jane Andes not take at 5-1, man? I can't believe like he couldn't find some money.
He said he could. He could find the money, but he felt irresponsible because he wasn't going to prepare. I mean, it's 50,000 hands. So even at 5-1, like if he thinks that he's definitely if he thinks that I'm definitely better than him, then it's still kind of a bad bet.
But because 5-1, I mean,
over 50,000 hands. If I'm like, for him to take the bet, he has to think that there's a chance that he's better than me. If he thinks that I'm definitely better than him, over 50,000 hands, the better player is going to win too often, even at 5-1, I think.
Damn, maybe I don't even know if I want a piece of part of Thirst Lounge that if Jane Nanez won't take 5-1.
Well, no, but it's different because the Thirst Lounge bet is 20 buy-ins, and so like 20 buy-in swing in PLO is not.
Oh, it's only 20 buy-ins. It's not even hands. It's who's ever up or down.
So it's technically capped at 50,000 hands, but it's 20. Whoever loses 20 buy-ins first loses.
At
So
100, 200.
yeah. So it's never going to go to 50,000 hands.
Right.
Almost never.
20 buy-ins is not that much. I mean,
It's
that's
not that much. Yeah.
like, yeah. They might have the best chance to win then.
I think that they have like I think that of the long odds matches, that's
20 to 1.
The best chance.
Get some jam some 60-40s enough times.
You always are 60-40. So
yeah, holy, well, interesting. Okay. Phil has also been known as the nicest guy in poker. Oftentimes, does that annoy him? Have you heard that a lot?
Some people have said that. I think Dan Smith has a list, and I'm second to Anzino in nicest guys. But no, it doesn't annoy me.
Okay, yeah, I don't know why they would ask that. Yeah, it's sort of being nice is nice. Favorite poker site? I think we know what that is. Got the Run It Once founder and CEO, right? You're the founder.
I'm not CEO. I'm just founder.
Okay. Phil, founder. Sickest hand you've ever seen. Is there a hand that just like in your poker career, you're like, man, I don't know, this game's too crazy, or like you witnessed it, or either you are a part of it, or one that stands out that you saw somewhere? Anything that you've seen a lot, but
no, that's too hard. Nothing's standing out.
Okay. Favorite PLO hand. What is Phil Galfond's favorite PLO hand? And I guess that's probably going to be hand rank 1, but give us like a Jack 9 suited type hand of PLO.
Okay.
Like the ace Jack 10 double suited.
I like a 10-9-9-8 single suited.
That's the one you can drag some big ones. It's a little sneaky, but
yeah,
connected. Nice. That sounds like a good one. Do you still believe the poker dream is alive for people starting out today, or the game has gotten too tough?
I think that it is. It's definitely tougher than it was 10 years ago or 5 years ago, but it's definitely doable. It's just, it's not necessarily doable for every single person, and you need to be working harder than you had to in the past, but it's still alive. Yeah.
What are the next big changes that Run It Once? What are the on the docket that's like, all right, we're going to get this completed, and this is what someone who's playing already could expect to be different?
So we just launched a software update today that has a number of things. The next big change will be sit and goes added, which cool. they're complete, but still have some bugs. So I've played them, but they're not done.
Someone asked about poker promo. You did Stars Become Legends, January 6th, 31st. That is on there right now. What do you think of the Apostle case? Did you dive? Joey lost his mind and went into that. Is that, did you get caught up in any of that? Did you look at any of it?
I looked at some of it. I mean, it seemed pretty obvious. I watched some of the videos on it. It seemed kind of obvious that he was cheating, but I stopped once I determined that or reached that conclusion.
Okay.
And let's do one more question.
Okay. Yeah, I think I just saw it explain the Hernandez situation. We did that. When the challenges starts, we did that. Isildur or Bryn Kinney? If what comes to mind, I don't know. What do you think? Is there anything? Someone asked that question. Who do you pick?
Who do I pick to play a challenge against?
Yeah.
They both be awesome and very high publicity and like both kind of the similar kind of like exploitative player who I think Isildur would be better for a high stakes PLO challenge specifically.
You probably want to play. I mean, in terms of winning, Bryn, Bryn's not like he hasn't played as much.
I mean, yeah, Victor has to be better at PLO. I would think.
I would think that's.
But I think that
Okay. Last question. Can you give a quick insight into how you manage your hectic work-life balance so well? Any productivity or time optimization tips, and then we're going to draw one for the giveaway here.
I don't think that I necessarily handle it that well, to be honest. So I don't have great advice. I mean, I think that I need to do a lot better at setting schedule and limits, because I just think that's pretty important, because if you don't there are always so many things pulling at you here and there, that if you're just going about your day with no plan and you want to get to X, Y, and Z, you just never get to Z because 100 things come up between X and Y.
It's good advice for sure. That's a good way to look at it. There you can see again. Give Phil a follow on Instagram. You can see his son and Farah's son here, super cute, and looks like he's already he's been busy. He's been traveling, doing some fun stuff. So congrats again on that. I can check
Thank you. You too.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a good time, man. My son's getting ready to start walking. It's getting there. So yeah, it's fun. This is Phil. This is his career. He does it all. He runs Run It Once. He's a great PLO player. He's got some challenges coming up. Check that out. Check him out on Twitter. You can follow along. And then, of course, we are going to give away the $55 ticket before we let you go. Can tell me when, and someone's going to win it, courtesy of Party Poker and Today, Phil. And of course, Run It Once, guys. It's all love in the industry, pushing around here. Go ahead, tell me when.
Okay, when?
There it is, $55 ticket coming to Lucas150494. We're gonna send him a message, and we will end with that. Phil, I appreciate the time. This may be the longest podcast, the most questions, and good luck to you in the challenges. We'll be watching closely. Maybe, who knows, be involved in some capacity, but I'll take a look at it. I think Jungleman's going to stream via my channel. That's what his plan was.
Nice.
So we'll see. And all the best, man. Great to catch up. Thanks for your time.
You too. Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
All right. That's Phil Galfond, everyone. Oh, my guy, Clay Aiken, known as the Legend. Check him out, and we'll be seeing you guys on a new podcast soon. Thanks, Phil.
Thanks.
All right.